question might be, why do you go live before you do those things? It's a good question, but see, some just have a starting soon screen. I don't, I just go like, here you go, I'm live. There you go. Good stuff. Right. See, I mean, this work might take a bit though. I'll have to see if I can finish this before I see the notifications going out. I'll have to see, who knows, not me. Working as much as always, whilst doing other things. In case anyone's wondering, that does happen to see this. I'm just updating me titles on YouTube, just throwing ASMR in it. Because maybe that is a good idea, just having ASMR in there instead of only just saying, reading some book. You know, maybe, just maybe. I think probably most notifications have gone out by now though. 3 more to go, hold on. Could you not do this off stream? Yes, I could. Yes, I certainly could. Could have also put up a starting this one screen or the likes and then done it. But well, smart man that I am not. Hello, Robinson Crusoe, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Okay, well, with that done and the notifications going out-ish, couldn't see it on Discord how well. I'll catch up soon enough. How are you doing, Robinson? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't stream much during the week, so pretty easy to miss during the week, unfortunately. I'm alright, wasn't too great yesterday eve, but stuff is getting better, so that's positive. And well, I'm quite excited to finish Treasure Island today, probably today at least. I quickly looked through the chapters that are left, and they're not that big. I mean, they're normal chapter size, and I think this last part 6, has about as many chapters as part 5, right? How many is it? 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's one more chapter. I will probably be looking at 2 hours and a bit instead of the 2 hours from yesterday, since the chapter seemed about equalish length. And thank you for keeping me hydrated, Zappa. Hope you are doing well as well. And alright, there we go. Discord bot noticed that I'm live as well. Always a bit of a gamble on how long that one takes. So let me just wait till 5 minutes uptime. Then I'll jump into reading, which is basically right about now, but just ending on a couple of seconds. And there you go. But alright, for all those who haven't seen Treasure, or haven't seen any of me Treasure Island streams yet so far. I've been reading the book Treasure Island lately. Started it last Sunday and did part 5 yesterday. I wouldn't be doing a recap. I don't know. I could do a recap, but it'd probably be quite long by now. It'd be a lot. Hello, suspicious dish. Hope you're doing well. Oh, okay. Wasn't still chatting for a bit. How was your weeks going? And yeah, if you're interested in Treasure Island, it's the book is in the public domain, so if you want to read it yourself, you can find it for free on the internet. If you want a link, just ask me in chat. I can just link you to it as well. And if you prefer listening to all the rest of it, I've started uploading my Twitch VoDs to YouTube. Basically, or no, just entirely unedited. Although if someone points out a loud noise in the monitor likes, I'll try and see if I can mute that in the YouTube editor. I think I can. Unfortunately, I don't really have time to edit it down to something I'd actually be content with, but maybe someday. Maybe. I'd like to kind of edit out at least the breaks where I'm going to get water, but maybe I like the little talking sections in between chapters as well sometimes, and then the talking in between paragraphs. Those might be a bit meh to edit out, so those probably not. It's good to hear that your week's going well. My week's been a bit hectic, I don't know. Yesterday wasn't the greatest, today is going better, so we'll take that. And I'm just gonna hope that I'm gonna enjoy the rest of Treasure Island, and that's gonna make my day even better today. Friendly friend. Just Scotland, 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 Scotland. But alright. Let me get into part 6 of Treasure Island. Captain Silver is what it's titled. Also, I think at the end of today's stream, I'd like to bounce some emote IDs off chat. So if anyone wants some input on emote IDs and stuff and the likes. That'll probably be in about 2 hours and a bit. Let's say 2 hours and 10 minutes or so. I'll be finishing up the book, so if you end up going elsewhere but still want some input on the emote IDs, it'll probably be about then. And alright, friendly friend. I'm just doing a bit more Scotland. But right, enough of the starting ramble. Part 6, Captain Silver. Chapter 28, in the enemy's camp. The red glare of the torch lighting up the interior of the blockhouse showed me the worst of my apprehensions realized. The pirates were in possession of the house and stores. There was the cask of cognac. There were the pork and bread as before, and what tenfold increased my horror, not a sign of any prisoner. I could only judge that all had perished, and my heart smote me sorely that I had not been there to perish with them. There were 6 of the buccaneers, all told. Not another man was left alive. 5 of them were on their feet, flushed and swollen, suddenly called out of the first sleep at drunkenness. The 6th had only risen up his elbow. He was deadly pale, and the blood-stained bandage round his head told that he had recently been wounded, and still more recently dressed. I remembered the man who had been shot and run back among the woods in the great attack, and doubted not that this was he. "Hello there, miss. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well." The parrot sat preening her plumage on Long John's shoulder. He himself, I thought, looked somewhat paler and more stern than I was used to. He still wore his fine broadcloth suit, in which he had filled his mission, but it was bitterly the worse for wear, daubed with clay and torn with sharp briars of the wood. "So," said he, "here's Jim Hawkins, shiver me timbers, dropped in like a... Welcome, I take that friendly." And thereupon he sat down across the brandy cask and began to fill a pipe. "Give me the loan of a link, Dick," said he, and then, when he had a good light, "That'll do, my lad," he added. "Stick the glim in the woo-reap, and you, gentlemen, bring yourselves to. You needn't stand up for Mr. Hawkins. He'll excuse you may later, and so, Jim," stopping the tobacco, "here you are, and quite pleasant as a prize for poor old John. I see you were smart when I first set my eyes on you, but this here gets away from me clean at too." "Oh, nice, miss. Hope you have a great sleep. Sleep well. Good night." "Hope it doesn't mess with your sleep schedule too much. Even if your sleep schedule is weird, it's kinda good and nice to keep a sleep schedule nonetheless." To all this, as may well be supposed, I made no answer. They had set me with my back against the wall, and I stood there, looking Silver in the face, pluckily enough, I hope, to all outward appearance, but with lack of despair in me heart. Silver took a whiff or two of his pipe with great composure, and then ran on again. "Now you see, Jim, so be as you are here," says he. "I'll give you a piece of my mind. I've always liked you, I have, for lair a spirit and the picture of my own self when I was a young and handsome. I always wanted you to join and take your share, and die a gentleman, and now me cock you've got to. Captain Smollet's a fine seaman, as I'll own up to any day, but stiff on discipline. Duty is duty, says he, and the right he is. Just you keep clear of the captain. The doctor himself is gone there again, you ungrateful scamp, was what he said. And the short and long of the whole story is about there. You can't go back to your own lot, for they won't have you, and without you, start a third ship's company all by yourself, which might be lonely. You'll have to join with Captain Silver. So far so good, my friends, then. They were still alive, and though I partly believe the truth of Silver's statement that the cabin party were incensed at me for my desertion, I was more relieved than distressed by what I heard. "Hello, Shuddering Rock. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week's going well." don't say nothing as to bring your friend. I don't say nothing as to your being in our hands, continued Silver, though there you are, and you may lay to it. I'm all over argument. I never seen good come out of threatening. If you feel like the service, well, you'll join. And if you don't, Jim, why, you're free to answer no. Free and welcome, shipmate. And if fairer can be said by mortal seamen, shiver me sights. Am I to answer then? I asked with a very tremulous voice. Through all this sneering talk, I was made to feel the threat of death that overhung me, and my cheeks burned and my heart beat painfully in my chest. Lad, said Silver, no one's pressing of you. Take your bearings. None of us won't hurry you, mate. Time goes so pleasant in your company, you see. Well, says I, growing a bit bolder, if I'm to choose, I declare I have a right to know what's what, and why you're here, and where my friends are. What's what? Repeated one of the buccaneers in a deep growl. I'd be a lucky one as knowed that. Hold on. No mind. You'll perhaps batten down your hatches till you spoke to me, friend, cried Silver truculently to the speaker, and then, in his first gracious tones, he replied to me. Yesterday morning, Mr. Hawkins, said he, in a dog watch, down came Dr. Livesey with a flag of truce, says he. Captain Silver, you're sold out. Ship's gone. Well, maybe we've been taking a glass in the song to help it around. I wouldn't say no. Leastways, none of us had looked out. We looked out, and by thunder, the old ship was gone. I never seen a pack of fools look fishier, and you may lay to that. If I told you that I looked the fishiest, well, says the doctor, let's bargain. We bargained him and I, and here we are. Stores, brandy, blockhouse. The firewood, you was thoughtful enough to cut, and in a manner of speaking, the whole blessed boat, from cross trees to Gilson. As for them, they've tramped. I don't know where they are. He drew again quietly at his pipe. And lest you should take her into that head of yours, he went on, that you was included in the treaty. Here's the last word that was said. How many are you, says I, to leave? 4, says he. 4 and one of us wounded. As for that boy, I don't know where he has confound him, says he. Nor I don't much care whereabouts I got him. These was his words. Is that all? I asked. Well, that's all you're to hear, my son, returned Silver. And now I am to choose. And now you are to choose, and you may have laid that, said Silver. Well, said I, I'm not such a fool, but I know pretty well what I have to look for. Let the worst come to the worst, it's little I care. I've seen too many die since I fell in with you, but there's a thing or two I have to tell you. I said, and by this time I was quite excited. And the first is this, here you are in a bad way, ship lost, treasure lost, men lost, your own business gone to wreck. And if you want to know who did it, 'twas I. I was in the apple barrel the night we sighted land, and I heard you, John, and you, Dick Johnson, and Hans, who is now at the bottom of the sea, and told every word you said before the hour was out. And as for the schooner, 'twas I who cut her cable, and 'twas I who killed the men you had aboard her, and 'twas I who brought her where you'll never see her more, not one of you. The law's on my side. I've had a top of this business from the first. I no more fear ya than I fear a fly. Kill me if you please or spare me, but one thing I'll say and no more. If you spare me, bygones are bygones, and when your fellows are in court for piracy, I'll save you all I can. 'Tis for you to choose. Kill another and do yourself no good, or spare me and keep a witness to save you from the gallows. Hello there, Mr. Ruby. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week's going splendid. I stopped before I tell you. I was out of breath, and to my wonder not a man of them moved, but all sat staring at me like as many sheep. And while they were still staring, I broke out again. "And now, Mr. Silver," I said, "I believe you're the best man here, and if things go to the worst, I'll take it kind of you to let the doctor know the way I look it." "I'll bear it in mind," said Silver, with an accent so curious that I could not for the life of me decide whether he were laughing at my request, or had been favourably affected by my courage. "I'll put one to that," cried the old mahogany-faced seaman, Morgan by name, whom I had seen in Long John's public house upon the quays of Bristol. 'Twas him that knowed Black Dog. "Well, and see here," added the sea cook, "I'll put another again to that, by thunder, for 'twas the same boy that faked a chart from Billy Bones, first and last we split upon Jim Hawkins." "Then here go," said Morgan with an oath, and he sprang up, drawing his knife as if he had been 20. "Avast there," cried Silver. "Who are you, Tom Morgan? Maybe you thought you were captain here, perhaps. By the powers, but I'll teach you better. Cross me, and you'll go where many a good man's gone before you, first and last. These 30 years back, some to the yardarm shiver me sights, and some by the board and all do feet to fishes. There's never a man looked me between the eyes and seen a good day afterward. To Morgan, you may lay to that." Morgan paused, but a hoarse murmur rose from the others. "Tom's right," said one. "I stood hazing long enough from one," added another. "I'll be hanged if I'll be hazed by you, John Silver." "Did any of you gentlemen want to have it out with me?" roared Silver, bending far forward from his position on the leg, or on the keg, with his pipe still glowing in his right end. "Put a name on what you're at. You ain't dumb, I reckon. Rum punch and cock his head athwart my hawser at the lather end of it. You know the way. You're all gentlemen of fortune by your account. Well, I'm ready. Take a cutlass him that dares, and I'll see the colour of it in sight, crutch and all, before the pipe's empty." "Hello there, fair sister. Hope you're doing well." Not a man stirred, not a man answered. "That your sword, is it?" he added, returning his pipe to his mouth. "Well, you're a queer lot to look at, anyway. Not worth much to fight. You ain't. Perhaps you can understand King George's English. I'm captain here by election. I'm this gentleman of fortune I should... Hold on. I'm captain here by election. I'm captain here because I'm the best man by a long sea mile. You won't fire as gentlemen of fortune should. Then by thunder you'll obey, and you may lay to it. I like that boy now, I never seen a better boy than that. He's more a man than any pair of rats of ya, in his here house. And what I say is this, let me see him that'll lay a hand on him. That's what I say, and you may lay to it. There was a long pause after this. I stood straight up, back against the wall, my heart still going like a sledgehammer, but with a ray of hope now shining in me bosom. Silver leaned back against the wall, his arms crossed, his pipe in the corner of his mouth, as calm as though he had been in church. Yet his eye kept wandering furtively, and he kept a tell of his unruly followers. They, on their part, drew gradually together toward the far end of the blockhouse, and the low hiss of their whispering sounded in my ears continuously, like a stream. One after another they would look up, and the red light of the torch would fall for a second on their nervous faces. But 'twas not toward me, 'twas toward Silver that they turned their eyes. "You seem to have a lot to say," remarked Silver, spitting far into the air. "Pipe up and let me hear it, or lay to." "Ax your pardon, sir," returned one of the men. "You're pretty free with some of the rules. Maybe you'll kindly keep an eye upon the rest. This crew is dissatisfied. This crew don't fally bullying a Marlin's pike. This crew has the rights like other crews. I'll make so free as that. And by your own rules I take that we can talk together. I ask your pardon, sir, acknowledging you for to be captain at this present, but I claim my right and steps outside for a council." And with an elaborate sea salute, this fellow, a long ill-looking yellow-eyed man of 35, stepped coolly toward the door and disappeared out of the house. One after another, the rest followed his example, each making a salute as he paused, each adding more apology. "According to rules," said one. "Forecastle council," said Morgan, and so with one remark or another, all marched out and left Silver and me alone with the torch. The sea cook instantly removed his pipe. "Now look ya here, Jim Hawkins," he said in a steady whisper that was no more than audible. "All right. You're within half a plank of that, and what's a long sight worse a torture, they're going to throw me off. But ya mark I stand by ya, through thick and thin. I didn't mean to know, until ya spoke up. I was about desperate to lose that much blood, and be hanged into the bargain, but I see you was the right sort, I says to myself. You stand by Hawkins, John, and Hawkins will stand by ya. You're his last guardian by living thunder, John, he's yours. Back to back, says I, you save your witness and he'll save your neck." I began dimly to understand. "You mean all's lost?" I asked. "Aye, by gum I do," he answered. "Ship gone, neck gone, that's the size of it. Once I looked into that bay, Jim Hawkins, and seen no schooner. Well, I'm tough, but I gave out. As for that lot and their council, mark me, they are outright fools and cowards. I'll save your life, so be as I can, from them, but see here, Jim, tit for tat. You save Long John from swinging." I was bewildered. It seemed a thing so hopeless he was asking. He, the old buccaneer, the ringleader throughout. "What can I do? That I'll do," I said. "What I can do, I'll do," I said. "'Tis a bargain," cried Long John. "You speak up plucky, and by thunder I've a chance." He hobbled to the torch where it stood propped among the firewood, and took a fresh light to his pipe. "Understand me, Jim," he said, returning. I've a hair on me shoulder, I have. I'm on the squire's side now. I know you've got that ship safe somewhere. How you done it I don't know, but safe it is. I guess Hans and O'Brien turned soft. I never much believed in either of them. Now you mark me, I ask no questions, nor I won't let others. I know when a game's up, I do. And I know a lad that's stanch. Ah, you that's young, you and me might have done a power of good together. He drew some cognac from the cask into a tin cannikin. "Will you taste, messmate?" he asked, and when I had refused, "Well, I'll take a drain myself, Jim," said he. "I need a caulker for this trouble on hand, and talking a trowel. Where a doctor give me the charge, Jim?" My face expressed a wonder so unaffected that I saw the needlessness of further questions. "How well he did do," said he, "and there's something under that, no doubt. Something surely under that, Jim, bad or good." And he took another swallow of the brandy, shaking his great fair head like a man who looks forward to the worst. "All right, that's the end of that chapter. Let me just pour some water into my glass, real quick, and as silent as possible. Hope you all enjoyed the start to this part. Jim in his peculiar predicament. Well, I was kinda about to do that anyways, miss, but thank you. Hope you're starting to feel sleepy. Hope you're dozing off by now. Sleep well if you are. And alright. At this point, the Roman numerals of the chapter are getting a bit hard to interpret for me. I know Roman numerals, of course, but except for the basics, at some point it starts getting difficult sometimes. But chapter 39, the Black Spot again. Or in Roman numerals, that's XXIX. Chapter 30 is quite R-rated at that. The council had a buccaneer had lost at some time when one of them re-entered the house. "Oh, hello, Fox and the Raven. Let me restart that paragraph in a bit then. Hello, Fox. Hope your stream went well. Glad I got to catch quite a bit of it during my work today. I didn't even want to look where you were still on after dinner. I figured you weren't, since you had been on quite a bit, I feel. And thank you for a follow, KK Kitty and Wiggle Expurgate. Thank you for the follows. Hope you are doing well. And P the Drip King, Elwoler, and Tyler, welcome, welcome. And hello, Bat Kyle, welcome, Raiders. Hope you're all having a great week so far. And well, if you've got a boring normal workday job like me, you'll probably be quite glad. It's Thursday, my roots. We're nearing the end of the week. It's an early weekend. And hello, JD. And howdy, Wake the Dreamer. How are y'all doing? Let me just quickly do some shower outs then. So there weren't that many people around before the raid, but if you were here before the raid and you don't follow Fox and the Raven yet, go give him a follow, will ya? And then just for everyone in general, if you don't follow Wig the Dreamer yet, go get that done as well. Even if you're on mobile, it may be a bit harder, you have to click on through. But go do it anyways, I'll be here. I'll be here, don't you worry. But alright, hope you're all doing well. And well, I've not been doing that much recaps wise lately, but let me do a quick recap then where we're at. I'm nearing the end of Treasure Island, the book. Some may know the story, it's been retold quite a many times already. You've got the Muppets version of Treasure Island, and you've got the animated movie, Treasure Planet, which I quite love, which is basically the same story, just in space. At the very least, so far, I've seen a lot of similarities with the book. Hello there, Phil King. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the follow. But, well, let me do a quick recap. I won't retell the whole story since it's quite a lot since we're nearing the end. But they ended up finding Treasure Island. They're currently there. But well, quite a part of the ship mutineered. So they're currently split up in two parties. And Jim, our kind of main character, right? Or yeah, our main character, just Jim. He's just gotten kind of captured, but also kind of just gotten friendly with the leader of the mutineers last chapter. So we'll have to see what's gonna happen in this chapter. Alright, Fox, take care. Have a nice lurk. And get some area after 7 hours. But alright, let me then jump into chapter 29, the Black Spot again. The council of the Buccaneers had lost at some time when one of them re-entered the house, and with a repetition of the same salute, which had in my eyes an ironical air, begged for a moment's loan at a torch. Silver bravely agreed, and his emissary retired again, leaving us together in the dark. "There's a breeze coming, Jim," said Silver, who had by this time adopted quite a friendly and familiar tone. I turned to the loophole nearest me and looked out. The ember of the great fire had so far burned themselves out, and now glowed so low and duskily that I understood why these conspirators desired a torch. About halfway down the slope to the stockade, they were collected in a group. One held the light, another was on his knees in their midst, and I saw the blade of an open knife shine in his hand with varying colours, in the moon and torchlight. The rest were all somewhat stooping, as though watching the manoeuvres of this last. I could just make out that he had a book as well as a knife in his hand, and was still wondering how anything so incongruous had come in their possession, when the kneeling figure rose once more to his feet, and the whole party began to move together toward the house. come, said I, and I returned to my former position, for it seemed beneath my dignity that they should find me watching them. Well, let 'em come, lad, let 'em come, said Silver cheerily. I've still a shot in me locker. The door opened and the 5 men, standing all together just inside, pushed one of their number forward. In any other circumstances it would have been comical to see a slow advance, hesitating as he set down each foot, but holding his closed right hand in front of him. "Step up, lad," cried Silver. "I won't heed you. Hand it over, lover. I know the rules, I do. I won't hurt a deputation." Or deputation. Thus encouraged, the buccaneer stepped forth more briskly, and having passed something of Silver from hand to hand, slipped yet more smartly back again to his companions. The sea-cook look that would have been given him. "Ah, the black spot. I thought so," he observed. "Where might you have got the paper? Why, Lord, look here. Now this ain't lucky. You've gone and cut this out of a Bible. What fool's got a Bible?" "Ah, there," said Morgan. "There, what did I say? No good to call me that," I said. "Well, you've about fixed it now among you," continued Silver. "You'll all swing now, I reckon. What soft-headed lumber had a Bible?" "'Twas Dick," said one. "Dick, was it? Then Dick can get a prayer," said Silver. "He's seen a slice of luck, has Dick, and you may later of that. But there the long man with the yellow eyes struck in. You know where his wig." "Come now," said George, "you won't fool this crew no more. You're a funny man by your account, but you're over now, and you'll maybe step down of that barrel. Wait, hold on. I think I thought I was further than I actually was. I was quite a bit further than I actually was. Let me rewind a little bit." After Silver's remarks, the long man with the yellow eyes struck in. "Believe it all, John Silver," he said. "This crew has tipped you the black spot in full council, as in duty bound. Just you turn it over as in duty bound, and see what's wrote there, then you can talk." "Thank ye, George," replied the sea-cook. "You always was brisk for business, and it's a rule by our George, as I'm pleased to see. Well, what is it anyway? Ah, the post, that's it, is it? Very pretty road, to be sure, like print. I swear, you're hand all right, George. Why, I was getting quite a Latin man in this here crew. You'll be captain next, I shouldn't wonder. Just oblige me with that torch again, will ya? This pipe don't draw." "Come now," said George. "You don't fool this crew no more. You're a funny man by your account. But you're over now, and you'll maybe step down of that barrel and help forth. Hello there, Rixie Galaxy, thank you for the follow, and Marilee Mengson, hello there. Hope your week's going well." "I thought you said you know the rules," returned Silver contemptuously. "Leastways, if you don't, I do, and I wait here, and I'm still your captain, mind. Tell you out with your grievances, and I reply in the meantime. Your black spot ain't worth a biscuit, "Oh, for that we'll see." "Oh," replied George, "you don't be under no kind of apprehension. We're all square we are. First you made a hash of this cruise, you'll be the bold man to say no to that. Second you let the enemy over this here trap for nothing. Whether they want out, I don't know, but it's pretty plain they wanted it. Third you wouldn't let us go with them upon the march. Oh, we see through ya, John Silver. You want to play booty, that's what's wrong with ya. And then fourth, there's this here boy." "Is that all?" asked Silver quietly. "Enough too," retorted George. "We'll all swing and sundry for your bungling." "Well now, look here, I'll answer these 4 pints, one after another, I'll answer 'em. I made a hash of this course today. Well now you all know what I wanted, and you all know, if it had been done, that we'd have been aboard the Hispaniola this night as ever was. Every man of us alive and fit and full of good plum duff, and a treasure in the hull there, by thunder. Well, who crossed me, who forced me hand? It was the lawful captain, who tipped me the black spot the day we landed and began this dance. It's a fine dance I'm with you there. It looks mighty like a hornpipe in a rope's end at execution dock by London town it does. But who done it? Why, it was Anderson and Hans and you, George Merry. And you're the last above board of that same meddling crew, and you have the David Jones insolence to up and stand for captain over me. You that sunk the Laras, by the powers, but it stops the stiffest jarring to nothing." Silver paused, and I could see it by the faces of George and his late comrades that these words had not been said in vain. "That's for number 1, cried the accused, wiping the sweat from his brow, for he had been talking with the femens that shook the house. "Why, I give you my word, I'm sick to speak to you. You've neither sense nor memory, and I leave at a fancy where your mother's was, to let you come to see. See, gentlemen of fortune, I reckon tailor is your trade." "Go on, John," said Morgan, "speak up to the others. And the Lord our Pangaret, hope you're doing well as well." "Ah, the others," returned John. "They're a nice Lorraine day. You see this crew is bungled. Ah, by gum, if you could understand how bad it's bungled, you would see. We're that near to give it that my neck's stiff with thinking on it. You've seen 'em maybe hanged in chains, birds about, and seamen pointing 'em out as they go down with the tide. 'Who's that?' says one. 'That? Why, that's John Silver. I know him well,' says another. And you can hear the chains and jangle as you go about and reach for the other boy. No, that's about where we are. Every mother's son of us thinks of him and Hans and Anderson, and all the ruination fools are ya. And if you want to know about number 4 and that boy, why, shiver me timbers. Isn't he a hostage? Are we going to waste a hostage? No, not us. He might be our last chance, and I shouldn't wonder. Kill that boy, not me, mate. And number 3, oh well, there's a deal to say on number 3. Maybe I don't count it nothing to have a real college doctor come to see you every day. You, John, with your head broke, or you, George Merry, that at the ague shakes upon you not 6 hours agone, and as your eyes the colour of lemon peel to the same moment on the clock. And maybe, perhaps, you didn't know there was a concert coming either, but there is, and not so long till then, and we'll see who will be glad to have a hostage when it comes to that. And as for number 2, and why I made a bargain, well, you come crawling on your knees to me to make it. On your knees you came, you was that downhearted. And you would have starved too if I hadn't, but that's a trifle. You look there, that's why. And he caused down upon the floor a paper that I instantly recognised. None other than the charred on yellow paper with a 3 red cross that I had found in the old cloth at the bottom of the captain's chest. Why the doctor had given it to him was more than I could fancy. But if it were inexplicable to me, the appearance of the chart was incredible to the surviving mutineers. They leaped upon it like cats upon a mouse. It went from hand to hand, one tearing it from another, and by the yells and the cries and the childish laughter with which they accompanied their examination, you would have thought not only they were fingering the very gold, but were at sea with it, besides in safety. Yes, said one, that's Flynn sure enough, JF and the score below, with a close edge to it, as we done before. Might pretty, or mighty pretty, said George, but how are we to get away with it, and there's no ship? Silver suddenly sprang up, and supporting himself with a hand against the wall. Now I give you a warning, George, he cried. One more word of your saws and I'll call you down and fight you. How? Why, how do I know? You were ought to tell me that you and the rest had lost me my schooner. With your interference burn ya. But not you, you can't. You ain't got the invention of a cockroach. But civil you can speak and shall George marry. You may later that. That's fair enough, said the old man Morgan. Fair, I reckon so, said the sea cook. You lost the ship. I found the treasure. Who's the better man of that? And now I resign my thunder. You lack whom you please to be a captain now. I'm done with it. Silver, they cried. Barbecue wherever, barbecue for captain. So that's the tune, is it? Cried the cook. George, I reckon you'll have to wait another turn, friend. And lucky for you, as I'm not a revengeful man, but that was never my way. And no shipmates this black spot, they much good know it. Dick's crossed his luck and spoiled his Bible, and that's about all. It'll do, I kissed a book on still, won't it? Growled Dick, who was evidently uneasy at the curse he had brought upon himself. The Bible were a bit cut out, returned Silver derisively. Not it don't bind no more than a bell book. Don't it do, cried Dick with a sort of joy. Well, I reckon that's worth having too. Here, Jim, here's a curiosity for you, said Silver, and he tossed me the paper. 'Twas a round about the size of a crown piece. One side was blank, for it had been the last leaf. The other contained a verse or two of Revelation. These words among the rest, which struck sharply home upon me mind. Without our ducks and murderers. The printed side had been blackened with wood ash, which already began to come off and soil me fingers. On the blank side had been written, with the same material, the one word, the post. I have that curiosity beside me at this moment, but not a trace of writing now remains beyond a single scratch, such as a man might make with his thumbnail. That was the end of the night's business. Soon after, with a drink all around, we lay down to sleep, and the outside of Silver's vengeance was to put George Merry up for sentinel, and threaten him with death if he should prove unfaithful. 'Twas long ere I could close an eye, and heaven knows I had matter enough for thought of the man whom I had slain that afternoon, in my own most perilous position, and above all, in the remarkable game that I saw Silver now engaged upon, keeping the mutineers together with one hand, and grasping with the other, after every means possible and impossible, to make his peace and save his miserable life. He himself slept peacefully and snored aloud, yet my heart was sore for him, wicked as he was. To think on the dark perils that environed, and the shameful gibbet that awaited him. All right. Quick breather between chapters, hold on. Hope all y'all's weeks are going well. And two, it's already been an hour, and it's only 2 chapters on. A bit behind what I was shooting for there on time. We'll have to see where time brings us. Hold on. But in that case, let's just jump on further on. In chapter 30 on parole. Hello there, Momoir. Thank you for the follow. I was awakened indeed. We were all awakened, for I could see even the sentinel shake himself together from where he had fallen against the doorpost by a clear, hearty voice hailing us from the margin of the woods. "Blockhouse ahoy!" it cried. "Here's the doctor." And the doctor it was, although I was glad to hear the sound, yet my gladness was not without admixture. I remembered with confusion my insubordinate and stealthy conduct, and when I saw where it had brought me, among what companions and surrounded by what dangers, I felt ashamed to look him in the face. He must have risen in the dark, for the day had hardly come, and when I ran to a loophole and looked out, I saw him standing like silver once before, up to the mid-leg in creeping vapour. "You, doctor, top morning to you, sir," cried Silver, broad awake and beaming with good nature in a moment. "Bright and early, to be sure, and it's the early bird as the saving goes that gets the rations. George, shake up your timber, son, and help look their lives over a ship's side. All are doing well in your patient was, all well and merry." "Hello there, Saget, or Sigat. Not much, not very often, no." I mean, I don't really have much props either, yeah. It's somewhere on the to-do list for some time. Right now, for as props go, and I don't have a lot of companies like to call them binaural mics, with like a 3DO or a head rack, which opens up a whole other toolbox of triggers to use. So I don't really even have that many triggers to do, really. But hopefully sometime in the future, surely. So he pethered on, standing on the hilltop with his crutch under his elbow, and one hand upon the side of the lockhouse, quite the old John in Foy's manner and expression. "We've quite a surprise for you too, sir," he continued. "We've a little stranger here. And no boarder and lodger, sir, and looking fit and tall as a fiddle. Slept like a supercargo he did. Right alongside of John, stem to stem we was all night. Dr. Livesey was by this time across the stockade and pretty near the cook, and I could hear the alteration in his voice as he said, "Not Jim, the very same Jim as ever was, as Silver." The doctor stopped outright, although he did not speak, and 'twas some seconds before he seemed able to move on. "Well, well," he said at last. "Jury first, and pleasure afterwards, as you might have said yourself, Silver. Let us overhaul these patients of yours." A moment afterwards he had entered the blockhouse, and with one grim nod to me, proceeded with his work among the sick. He seemed under no apprehension, though he must have known that his life among these treacherous demons depended on a hair, and he rattled unto his patients as if he were paying an ordinary professional visit in a quiet English family. His manner, I suppose, reacted on the men, for they behaved to him as if nothing had occurred, as if he were still ship's doctor, and they still faithful hands before the mast. "You're doing well, me friends," he said to the fellow with the bandaged head, "and if ever any person had a close-shaved was you, your head must be as hard as iron. Well, George, how goes it? You're a pretty colour, certainly. Why, your liverman is upside down. Did you take that medicine? Did you take that medicine, man?" "Aye, aye, sir, he took it sure enough," returned Morgan. "Because you see, since I am your nearest doctor, or prison doctor, as I prefer to call it," says Dr. Livesey, in his pleasantest way, "I make it a point of honour not to lose a man for King George, God bless him, at the gallows." The rogues looked at each other, but swallowed the home thrust in silence. "Dick don't feel well, sir," said one. "Don't he?" replied the doctor. "Well, step up here, Dick, and let me see your tongue. No, I should be surprised if he did. The man's tongue is fit to frighten the French. Another fever." "Ah, there," said Morgan, "that comed of spelling Bibles. That comed, as you call it, of being errant asses," retorted the doctor, "and not having sense enough to know honest air from poison, and a dry land from a vile pestiferous slough. I think it most probable, though, of course, 'tis only an opinion, that you'll all have the dues to pay before you get that malaria out of your systems. Camber and bog with ya. Silver, I'm surprised at ya. You're less of a fool than many. Take you all around, but you don't appear to me to have the rudiments of a notion of the rules of health." "Well," he added, after he had dosed him round, and he had taken his prescriptions with really laughable humility, more like charity school children than blood-guilty mutineers and pirates. "Well, that's done for the day, and now I should wish to have a talk with a boy, please." And he nodded his head in my direction, carelessly. George Merry was at the door, spitting and spluttering over some bad-tasted medicine, but at the first word on the doctor's proposal, He swung around with a deep flush and cried, "No," and swore. Silver struck the barrel with his open hand. "Silence," he roared, and looked about him positively, like a lion. "Doctor," he went on, in his usual tones, "I was thinking of that, knowing as how you had a fancy for the boy. We're all humbly grateful for your kindness, and, as you see, puts faith in you, and takes the drugs down like that much grog, and I take it I've found a way as'll soothe all. Hawkins, will you give me your word of honour as a young gentleman, for a young gentleman you are, although poor born, your word of honour not to slip your cable?" I readily gave the pledge required. "Then, doctor," said Silver, "you just step outside of that stockade, and once you're there, I'll bring that boy down on the inside, and I reckon you can yarn through his purse. Good day to you, sir, and all our duties to the Squire and Captain Smollet." The explosion of disapproval, which nothing but Silver black looks had restrained, broke out immediately. The doctor had left the house. Silver was roundly accused of playing double, of trying to make a separate peace for himself, of sacrificing the interests of his accomplices and victims, and in one word, of the identical, exact thing that he was doing. It seemed to me so obvious in this case that I could not imagine how he was to turn their anger, but he was twice the man the rest were, and his late night's victory had given him a huge preponderance on their minds. He called them all the fools and dolls I can imagine, said it wasn't necessary I should talk to the doctor, fluttered a charter in their faces, asked them if they could afford to break the treaty the very day they were bound at treasure hunting. "No, by thunder," he cried, "it must break the treaty when the time comes. Until then I'll gammon that doctor, if I have to ale his booze with brandy." And then he bade them get the fire lit, and staggered over upon his crutch, with his hand on my shoulder, leaving them in disarray and silence by his volubility rather than convince. "Slow, lad, slow," he said. "They might round upon us in the twinkle of an eye if we was seen to hurry." Right, let me get some more water into my glass real quick. Very deliberately then did we advance across the sand to where Dr. waited us on the other side of the stockade, and as soon as we were within easy speaking distance, Silver stopped. "You'll make a note of this here also, doctor," said he, "and the boy'll tell you how I saved his life, and what is posed for it, too, and you may lay to that, doctor, with a man staring as near to the wind as me, playing Jock Farthing with the last breath in his body. Like, you wouldn't think it too much, mayhap, to give him one good word. You'll please bear in mind it's not me life only now, it's that boy's into the bargain, and you'll speak me fair, doctor, and give me a bit of hope to go on, for the sake of mercy." Silver was a changed man once he was out there, and had his back to his friends. Once he had his back to his friends in the blockhouse, his cheeks seemed to have fallen and his voice trembled. Never was a soul more dead in earnest. Dr. Livesey. Doctor, I'm no coward, no, nor I. Not so much. And he snapped his fingers. If I was, I wouldn't say it, but I'll own up fairly. I've the shakes upon me for the gallows. You're a good man and a true. I never seen a better man. And you'll not forget what I done good, not any more than you'll forget the bad I know. And I step aside, see here, and leave you and Jim alone, and you'll put that down for me too, for it's a long stretch, isn't it? So saying, he stepped back a little way, till he was out of earshot, and there sat down upon a tree stump, and began to whistle, spinning round now and again upon his seat so as to command the sight, sometimes of me and the doctor upon his seat, or the sight sometimes of me and the doctor, and sometimes of his unruly ruffians, as they went to and fro in the sand, between the fire which they were busy rekindling, and the house from which they brought forth pork and bread to make breakfast. "So, Jim," said the doctor, quite sadly, "here you are, as you have brewed, so shall you drink, my boy. Heaven knows I cannot find it in me heart to blame you. But this much I will say, be it kind or unkind, when Captain Smollett was well, you dare not have gone off, and when he was ill and couldn't help it, by George, it was downright cowardly." I will own that I here began to weep. "Doctor," I said, "you might spare me. I have blamed myself enough. My life's full of it anyway, and I should have been dead by now if Silver hadn't sat for me, and Doctor believe this, and I can die, and I dare say I deserve it. But what I fear is torture. Here I come to torture me." "Jim," the doctor interrupted, and his voice was quite unchanged. "Jim, I can't have this. Whip over and we'll run for it." "Doctor," said I pass me word. I know," he cried. "We can't help that, Jim. Now, I'll take it on my shoulders. All this ball is blame and shame, my boy, but stay here, I cannot let you. Jump, one jump and you're out, and we'll run for it like antelopes." "No," I replied, "you know right well you wouldn't do the thing yourself, neither you nor Squire nor Captain, and no more will I. Silver trusted me, I pass me word, and back I go. But Doctor, you didn't let me finish. If I come to torture me, I might let slip a word of where the ship is, for I got the ship part by luck and part by risking, and she lies in the North Inlet, on the southern beach, and just below high water. At half tide she must be high and dry." "The ship!" exclaimed the doctor. Rapidly I described him my adventures, and he heard me out in silence. "There's a kind of fear in this," he observed when I had done. "Every step it's you that save our lives, and do you suppose by any chance that we are going to let you lose yours? That would be a poor return, my boy. You found out the plot, you found Ben Gunn, the best deed that ever you did or will do, till you live to 90. Oh, by Jupiter, and talking of Ben Gunn, where is the mischieving person Silver?" he cried. "Silver, I'll give you a piece of advice." He continued as the cook drew near again. "Don't you be in any great hurry after the treasure." "Why, sir, I do my possible, which that ain't," said Silver. I can only asking your pardon, save me life and the boys by seeking for a treasure, and you may lay to it." "Well, Silver," replied the doctor, If that is so, I'll go one step farther. Look out for squalls when you find it. Sir, said the bitter Silver, or said Silver, as between man and man, that's too much and too little. What you're after while at the blockhouse, why you given me that there chart, I don't know. No, do I? And yet I done your bidding with my eyes shut, and never a word of hope. But no, this here's too much. If you won't tell me what you mean plain out, just say so, and I'll leave the helm. No, said the doctor musingly. I've no right to say more. 'Tis not my secret, you see, Silver, for I give you my word. I tell it to you. But I'll go as far with you as I dare go, and a step beyond, or have my wick sworded by the captain, or I'm mistaken. And first I'll give you a bit of hope, Silver. If we both get out alive out of this whole trip, I'll do my best to save you, short up or Jerry. Silver's face was radiant. You couldn't say more, I'm sure, sir. Not if you was me mother, he cried. Well, that's my first concession, there, doctor. My second is a piece of advice. Keep the boy close beside you, and when you need help, hello him off to seek it for you. And that itself will show you if I speak at random. Goodbye, Jim. And Dr. Livesey shook hands with me through the stockade, nodded to Silver, and set off at a brisk pace into the woods. Alright, before I jump into chapter 31, I'll take a quick short break. I'll be right back. Let me throw that horrible text back up there. And I hope to see you all back again in a bit. But if not, then see you another time. I'm back in a bit. Alright, and back again. Let me see. 4 chapters left to do. Should be good, should be doable. Just hope I can get those 4 chapters done within about 2 hours. Planning reasons and all. Other things to do this evening. Or so I presume. So alright. Chapter 31. The Treasure Hunt, Flint's Pointer. Jim, said Silver, we were alone. If I saved your life, you saved mine, and I'll not forget it. I seen the doctor waving you to run for it. What a tell of me I did. And I seen you saying no as plain as herring. Jim, that's one to you. This is the first glint of hope I had since the attack fell, and I owe it to you. And now, Jim, we're to going for this treasure hunting. We're sealing orders too, and I don't like it. And you and me must have close back to back like, and we'll save our necks in spite of fear and fortune. Just then the man hailed us from the fire that breakfast was ready, and we were soon seated here and there, about a send over biscuit and fried junk. They had lighted a fire fit to roast an ox, and was now grown so hot that it could only approach it from the windward, and even there not without precaution. In the same wasteful spirit they had cooked, I suppose, 3 times more than we could eat, and one of them with an empty laugh, threw what was left into the fire, which blazed and roared again over his unusual fuel. I never in my life saw men so carelessly of the morrow. Hand to mouth is the only word that can describe their way of doing. And what with wasted food and sleeping sentries, though they were bold enough for a brush and been done with it, I could see their entire unfitness for anything like a prolonged campaign. Even Silver, eating away, with Captain Flint upon his shoulder, had not a word of blame for her recklessness, and this the more surprised me, for I thought he had never showed himself so cunning as he did then. "Aye, mate," said he, "it's lucky you have barbecue to think for you with this here hat. I got what I wanted, I did, sure enough. They have the ship. Where I have it I don't know yet, but once we have the treasure we'll have to jump about and find out. And then, mates, us that is the boat, I reckon is the upper end." Then he kept running on with his mouth full of the hot bacon. Thus he restored their hope and confidence, and I more than suspect repaired his own at the same time. As for the hostage, he continued, that's his last dog, I guess. With them me love so dear, I've got my peas and news, and thank ye to him for that. But it's over and done, I'll take him in a line when we go treasure hunting, for I'll keep him like so much gold, in case of accidents you mark off, and in the meantime, once we get to the ship and treasure both, are off to sea like jolly companions. Why then we'll talk Mr. Hulkins over. We will, and we'll give him a share, to be sure we're all his kindness. 'Twas no wonder the men were in a good humour now. For my part I was horribly cast down, should the scheme he had now sketched prove feasible. Silver, already doubly a trader, would not hesitate to adopt it. He had still left food in either camp, and there was no doubt he would prefer wealth and freedom with the pirates to a bare escape from hanging, which was the best he had to open our sight. Nay, and even if things so fell out that he was forced to keep his faith with Dr. Livesey, even then what danger lay before us. What a moment that would be when the suspicions of his followers turned to certainty, and he and I should have to fight for their life, he a cripple and I a boy, against 5 strong and active seamen. Add to this double apprehension the mystery that still hung over the behaviour of me friends, their unexplained desertion of the stockade, their inexplicable cession of the heart, or harder still to understand, the doctor's last warning to Silver. Look out for squalls when you find it, and you will readily believe how little taste I found in me breakfast, and with how uneasy a heart I set forth behind my captors on the quest for treasure. We made a curious figure. Had anyone been there to see us, all ensoiled, sailor clothes and all, but me armed to the teeth, Silver had 2 guns slung about him, one before and one behind, besides the great cutlass at his waist, and a pistol in each pocket of his square-tilled coat. To complete his strange appearance, Captain Flint sat perched upon his shoulder, and gobbled odds and ends of purposeless sea talk. I had a line about me waist and followed obediently after the sea cook, who held a lure and a rope, now in his free hand, now between his powerful teeth. For all the world I was led like a dancing bear. Hello there, King HB, thank you for a follow, hope you're doing well. The other men were variously burdened, some carrying picks and shovels, for it had been the very first necessary they brought ashore from the Hispaniola. Others laden with pork, bread and brandy for the midday meal. All the stores I observed came from our stock, and I could see the true of Silver's words the night before. Had he not struck a bargain with the doctor, he and his mutineers, deserted by the ship, must have been driven to subsist on clear water, and the proceeds of their hunting. Water would have been little to their taste, as sailors not usually a good shot, and besides all that, when they were so short of eatables, 'twas not likely they would be very flush of powder. Well thus equipped, we all set out, even the fellow with the broken head, who should certainly have kept in touch and shadow, and straggled one after another to the beach, where the 2 gigs awaited us. Even these bore trace of the drunken folly of the pirates, one in a broken thwart and both in their muddied and unbuilt condition. Both were to be carried along with us, for the sake of safety, and so, with our numbers divided between them, we set forth upon the bosom of the anchorage. As we pulled over, there was some discussion on the chart. The Red Cross was, of course, far too large to be a guide, and the terms and a note on the back, as you will hear, admitted of some ambiguity. They ran, the reader may remember thus: tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a point to the north of north-northeast. Skeleton Islands, east, southeast, and by east, 10 feet. The tall tree was just a principal remark. Now, right before us, the anchorage was bounded by a plateau from 200 to 300 feet high, adjoining on the north above the sloping southern shoulder of the spyglass, and rising again toward the south into the rough, cliffy eminence called the Mizzenmast Hill. The top of the plateau was dotted thickly with pine trees of varying height. Every here and there, one of a different species rose 40 or 50 feet clear above its neighbours, and which of these was the particular tall tree of Captain Flint could only be decided on the spot and by the readings of a compass. Hold on, there we go. Yet although that was the case, every man on board the boat had picked a favourite of his own ere we were halfway over. Long John alone shrugging his shoulders and bidding them wait till they were there. We pulled easily by Silver's directions, not to weary the hands prematurely, and after quite a long passage landed at the mouth of the second river, that which runs down a woody cleft at a spyglass, thence bending toward left, we began to ascend the slope towards the plateau. At the first outset, heavy miry ground and a matted marsh vegetation greatly delayed our progress. But by little and little, the hill began to steepen and became stony underfoot, and the wood to change its character and to grow in a more open order. 'Twas indeed a most pleasant portion of the island that we were now approaching. A heavy-scented broom and many flowering shrubs had almost taken the place of grass. Thickets of green nutmeg trees were dotted here and there with the red columns and the broad shadows of the pines, and the firs mingled their spice with the aroma of the others. The air beside was fresh and stirring, and this, under sheer sunbeams, was a wonderful refreshment to our senses. The party spread itself abroad in a fan shape, shouting and leaping to and fro, about the centre and a good way behind the rest. Silver and I followed. I tethered by my rope, he ploughing with deep hands among the sliding gravel. From time to time, indeed, I had to lend him a hand, or he must have missed his footing and fallen backward down the hill. We had thus proceeded for about half a mile, and were approaching the brow of the plateau, when the men upon the farthest left began to cry aloud, as if in terror. Shout after shout came from him, and the others began to run in his direction. "He can't have found the treasure," said old Morgan, hurrying past us from the right, "for it's clean at top." Indeed, as we found when he also reached the spot, it was something very different. At the foot of a pretty big pine involved in a green creeper, which had even partly lifted some of the smaller bones, a human skeleton lay, with a few shreds of clothing on the ground. I believe a chill struck for a moment to every heart. "He was a seaman," said George Merry, who bolder than the rest had gone up close and was examining the rags of clothing. "Leastways, this is good sea-cloth." "Aye, aye," said Silver. "Like enough, you wouldn't look to find a bishop here, I reckon. But what sort of way is that for bones to lie? 'Tain't in nature." Indeed, on a second glance, it seemed impossible to fancy that the body was in a natural position, but for some disarray, the work perhaps of the birds that fed upon him, or of the slow-growing creeper that had gradually enveloped his remains, the man lay perfectly straight, his feet pointing in one direction, his hands raised above his head like a diver's, pointing directly in the opposite. I've taken a notion to me old numbskull observed silver. There's the compass, there's the tip-top point of Skeleton Island, sticking out like a tooth. Just take a bearing, will ya, along the line of them bones. 'Twas done. The body pointed straight in the direction of the island, and the compass read duly, east-southeast by east. Hold on. Thought so, cried the cook. This here is a pointer. Right up there is our line for the Pole Star and the Jolly Dollars. But by thunder, if it don't make me cold inside to think of Flint. This is one of his jokes and no mistake. Him and these six were alone there, he killed them every man. And there's one he hauled there and laid down my compass, shiver me timbers. They are long bones and the hair's been yellow. I hear it'll be Allardyce. You mind Allardyce, Tom Morgan? Aye, aye, returned Morgan. I mind him, he owed me money, he did, and took me knife ashore with him. Speaking of knives, said another, why don't we find this one lying round? Flint were the men to pick a seaman's pockets and the birds, I guess, would leave it be. By the power, and that's true, cried Silver. There ain't a thing left there, said Mary, still feeling around among the bones. Not a copper do it, nor a Becky box. It don't look natural to me. No, by gum it don't, agreed Silver. Not natural, nor not nice, is ya. Great guns, messmates. But if Flint was living, this would be a hot spot for you and me. 6 they were, and 6 are we, and bones is what they are now. I saw him that with these dead lights, said Morgan. Billy took me in, there he laid, with penny pieces on his eyes. That I, sure enough, he's dead and gone below, said the fellow with the bandage. But if ever spirit walked, it would be Flint's. They're hard, but he died bad, did Flint. Aye, there he did, observed another. Now he raged, and now he hollered for a rum, and now he sang. 15 men were his only song mates, and I tell you true, I never rightly liked to hear it since. 'Twas main hot and the windy was open, and I hear that old song coming out as clear, and a death all on the man already. Come, come, said Silver, show this talk, show this talk. He's dead, and he don't walk, that I know. Leastways he won't walk by day, and you may later that. Cargill the cat, fetch a hat for the balloons. We started certainly, but in spite of the hot sun and the staring daylight, the pirates no longer ran separate and shouting through the wood, but kept side by side and spoke with bated breath. The terror at an epoch and air had fallen on their spirits. Alright, and let me continue straight on with chapter 32. The treasure hunt, the fight among the trees. Partly from the damping influence of this alarm, partly there are Silver and the sick folk, The whole party sat down as soon as they had gained the brow of the ascent, the plateau being somewhat tilted toward the west. The spot on which we had paused commanded a wide prospect on either hand. Before us, over the tree tops, we beheld the cape by the woods, fringed with surf. Behind, we not only looked down upon the Anchorage and Skeleton Island, but saw clear across the spit and the eastern lowlands a great field of open sea upon the east. Sheer above us rose a spyglass, here dotted with single pines, there black with precipice. There was no sound but that of the distant breakers mounting from all around, and it chirped back countless insects in the brush. Not a man, not a sail upon the sea. The very largeness had a few increased the sense of solitude. Silver as he sat, took certain bearings with his compass. There are 3 tall trees, said he, about in a right line from Skeleton Island. Spyglass shoulder, I take it, me setting lower pine there. It's child's play to find the stuff now. I've half a mind to dine first. I don't feel sharp, growled Morgan. Thinking of Flint, I think it what has done me. How well, my son, your precious star is dead, said Silver. He was an ugly devil, cried a third pirate with a shudder. That blew in the face too. 'Twas how the rum took him, added Mary. Blue, well I reckon he was blue, that's a true word. Hold on, let me pour some more water. I'm actually going through water quite quickly right now. Ever since they had found the skeleton, and got upon this train of thought, they had spoken lower and lower, and they had almost got to whispering by now. So that sound of their talk hardly interrupted the silence or a wood. All of a sudden, out of the middle of the trees in front of us, a thin, high-trembling voice struck up the well-known air in the words. 15 men on a Lapman's chest, yo-ho-ho and the Ballaram. I never have seen men more dreadfully affected than the pirates. The colour had went from their 6 faces like enchantment. Some leaped to their feet, some clawed hold of others. Morgan grovelled on the ground. "'Tis Flint, by," cried Mary. The song had stopped, but as suddenly as began. Broken off, you would have said, in the middle of a note, as though someone had laid his hand upon the singer's mouth. Coming so far through the clear, sunny atmosphere among the green tree-tops, I thought it sounded airily and sweetly, and the effect on my companions was a stranger. "Hello, Ripper, hope you're doing well, and there sure be things afire." "Come," said Silver, struggling with his ashen lips. "To get the word out." "Nah, that won't do. Stand by to go about. This is a rum start and I can't name the voice, but it's someone skylarking, someone that's flesh and blood that you may lay in it. Sad to see creativity truly died a long time ago in trolls. We'll weep some tears for him. His courage has come back as he spoke. And good morning, Fire Rock. Hope you're doing well. His courage had come back as he spoke, and some had a colour to his face along with it. Already the others had begun to lend an ear to his encouragement, and were coming a little to themselves, when the same voice broke out again, not this time singing, but in a faint distant hill that echoed yet fainter among the cliffs at a spyglass. Derby Graw it wailed, for as the word best describes the sound. Derby Graw, Derby Graw. Again and again and again, and then rising a little higher, with a note that I leave out. Fetch after rum, Derby. The buccaneers remained rooted to the ground, their eyes starting from the rats. Long after the voice had died away, they still stared in silence, dreadfully before them. That fixes it, gasped one. Let's go. They was his last words, moaned Morgan, his last words above bird. Dick had his Bible out and was praying fallingly. He had been well brought up at Dick before he came to sea, and fell among bad companions. Still, Silver wasn't conquered. I could hear his teeth rattle in his head, but he had not yet surrendered. Nobody in this island ever heard at Derby, he muttered. Not one but us that's here. And then, making a great effort, shipmates, he cried, I'm here to get that stuff, and I'll not be beat by man nor devil. I never was afeard of flint in his life, and by the power shall face him that there's 700,000 pounds and a quarter of a mile from here. When did ever a gentleman of fortune show a stern to that much dollars for a boozy old seaman with a blue muck? And him that too. But there was no sign of reawakening courage in his followers, rather indeed of growing terror at the interference of his words. Play there, John, said Mary, don't you cross a spirit? And the rest were all too terrified to reply. They would have run away severally had they dared, but fear kept them together, and kept them close by John, as if his daring helped them. He on his part had pretty well fought his weakness down. Spirit, well maybe, he said, but there's one thing not clear to me. There was an echo, now no man ever seen a spirit with a shadow. Well then, what's he doing with an echo to him? I should like to know. That ain't in nature, surely. This argument seemed weak enough to me, but you can never tell what will affect the superstitious, and to my wonder George Mary was greatly relieved. Well, that's so, he said. You've a head upon your shoulders, John, and no mistake. About shipmates. This here crew is on a wrong tack, I do believe. And come to think on it, 'twas like Flint's voice I grant but not just so clear away like it. After all, 'twas liker somebody else's voice now. 'Twas liker. By the powers bang gun, roared Silver. Aye, and so it war, cried Morgan, springing on his knees. Ben gun it war. It won't make much odds to it now, asked Dick. Ben gun's not here in the body any more than Flint. Pretty all their hands greeted this remark with scorn. Why, nobody mind Ben gun, cried Mary. Dead or alive, nobody minds him. It was extraordinary how their spirits had returned, and how the natural colour had revived in their faces. Soon they were chatting together, with intervals of listening, and not long after, hearing no further sound, they shouldered the tools and shot forth again. Mary walking first with Silver's compass to keep them on the right line with Skeleton Island. He had said it true that for life nobody minded Ben Gunn. Dick alone still held his Bible and looked around him as he went with fearful glances, but he found no sympathy, and Silver even joked him on his precautions. "I told ya," said he, "I told ya you had spelled your Bible. If it ain't no good to swear by, what do you suppose a spirit would give for it? Not that." And he snapped his big fingers, halting a moment on his crutch. But Dick was not to be comforted indeed. 'Twas soon plain to me that the lad was falling sick, hastened by heat exhaustion and the shock of his alarm. The fever predicted by Dr. Livesey was evidently growing swiftly higher. 'Twas fine open walking here. Upon the summit our way lay a little downhill, for as I have said, the plateau tilted toward the west. The pines, great and small, grew wide apart, and even between the clumps and nutmeg and azalea, wide open spaces baked in the hot sunshine, striking as we did, pretty near northwest across the island. We drew on the one hand, ever nearer on the shoulders of the spyglass, and on the other looked ever wider over a western bay where I had once tossed and trembled in the coracle. The first of the tall trees was reached, and by the bearing proved the wrong one. So with the second, the third rose nearly 200 feet into the air above a clump on the road, a giant and a vegetable, with a red column as big as a cottage, and a wide shadow around in which a company could have manoeuvred. 'Twas conspicuous far to see, both on the east and the west, and might have been entered as a sailing mark upon the chart. But 'twas not its size that now impressed me companions. 'Twas the knowledge that 700,000 pounds in gold lay somewhere buried below its spreading shadow. The thought and the money as they drew nearer swallowed up their previous terrors. Their eyes burned in their heads, their feet grew speedier and lighter, their whole soul was bound up in that fortune, that whole lifetime of extravagance and pleasure that lay waiting there for each of them. Silver howled, grunting on his crutch. His nostrils stood out and quivered. He cursed like a madman when the flies settled on his hot and shiny countenance. He plucked furiously at the line that held me to him, and from time to time turned his eyes upon me with a deadly look. Certainly he took no pains to hide his thoughts, and certainly I read them like print. In the immediate nearness of the gold, all else had been forgotten. His promise and the doctor's warning were both things of the past, and I could not doubt that he hoped to seize upon the treasure, find and board the Hispaniola under cover at night, cut every honest throat about that island, and sail away as he had at first intended, laden with crimes and riches. Shaken as I was with these alarms, 'twas hard for me to keep up with the rapid pace of the treasure hunters, Now and again I stumbled, and it was then that Silver plucked so roughly at the rope and launched at me his murderous glances. Dick, with the behind us, had now brought up the rear, was babbling to himself both prayers and curses, as his fever kept rising. This also added to my wretchedness, and to crown all I was haunted by the thought of the tragedy that had once been acted on that plateau, when that ungodly buccaneer with a blue face, he who had died at the savannah, singing and shouting for drink, had there, with his own hand, cut down his 6 accomplices. This grove that was now so peaceful must have rung with cries, I thought, and even with the thought I could believe I heard it ringing still. We were now at the margin of the thicket. "Who saw me?" all together shouted Mary, and the foremost broke into a run. And suddenly, not 10 yards farther, we beheld them stop. A low cry arose. Silver doubled his pace, digging away with the foot of his crutch like one possessed. At the next moment he and I had come also to a dead halt. Before us was a great excavation, not very recent, for a side had fallen in and grass had sprouted on the bottom. In this was a shaft of a pick broken in two, and the boards of several packing cases strewn around. On one of these boards I saw branded with hot iron the name Walrus, the name of Flint's ship. All was clear to probation. The cash had been found and rifled. The £700,000 were gone. All right. A quick little break in between chapters. But that'll be your second to last after. I think they won't be that long. They look pretty short, these last 2 chapters. At least, so much shorter this compared to some others. Alright. Chapter 33. I'm doing well, Flaming Firerock, thank you very much. Or well, I don't know, I am doing good right now. My week's been well. My day yesterday wasn't too great, and then this morning it wasn't quite past, but it got better and better over the day, and now I've got a good distraction going on in this. So I'm doing well. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. But whilst I await that answer, let me get back into the reading. I do still have quite a bit of time, but hope to finish the story within about the next hour, which I should be able to do 2 chapters left. Chapter 33, The Fall of a Chieftain. There never was such an overturn in this world. Each of these 6 men was as though he had been struck, but with Silver the blow almost instantly, or passed almost instantly. Every thought of his soul had been set full stretch, like a razor on that money. Well, he was brought up in a single second debt, and he kept his head, found his temper, and changed his plan before the others at that time to realise the disappointment. Well, it's nice to fire off. Hope you're enjoying your more chill and relaxed time then. Gem. he whispered. "Take that and stand by for trouble." And he passed me a double-barreled pistol. At the same time he began quietly moving northward, and in a few steps had put a hollow between us two and the other 5. Then he looked at me and nodded, as much as to say, "Here is a narrow corner, as indeed I thought it was." His looks were now quite friendly, and I was so ruffled at his constant changes that I could not forbear whispering, "So you've changed sides again." There was no time left for him to answer in. The buccaneers with oaths and cries began to leap, one after another, into the pit, and to dig with their fingers, throwing the boards aside as they did so. Morgan found a piece of gold. He held it up with a perfect spout out. 'Twas a 2-guinea piece, and it went from hand to hand among them for a quarter of a minute. 2 guineas, roared Mary, shaking it at Silver. "That's your £700,000, is it? You're the man for bargains, ain't you? You're him that never bungled nothing. You wouldn't have it, lover." "Dig away, boy," said Silver, with a cool insolence. "You'll find some picknuts, and I shouldn't wonder." "Picknuts," repeated Mary in a scream. "Mates, do you hear that, I tell you now? That man there knew it all along. Look in the face of him, and you'll see it wrote there." "Ah, Mary," remarked Silver, standing for Captain again, "you're a pushing lad, to be sure." By this time everyone was entirely in Mary's favour. They began to scramble out of the excavation, darting furious glances behind them. One thing I observed, which looked well for us. They all got out upon the opposite side from Silver. Well, there we stood, 2 on one side, 5 on the other, the pit between us, and nobody screwed up high enough to cover the first blow. Silver never moved, but he watched them, very upright on his crutch, and looked as cool as I ever saw him. He was brave and no mistake. At last Mary seemed to think a speech might help matters. "Mate," says he, "there's 2 of them alone there. One's the old cripple and brought us all here, and blundered us down to this. The other's that cup that I mean to have the art of. No, mates." He was raising his arm and his voice, and plainly meant to lead a charge, but just then, crack, 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 3 musket shots flashed out of the thicket. Mary tumbled at foremost into the excavation. The man with his bandage spun around like a teetotum, and fell all his length upon his side, where he lay dead, but still twitching, and the other 3 turned and ran for it with all their might. Before I could wink, Long John had fired 2 barrels of that pistol into the struggling Mary, and as the man rolled beside him in the last agony, "George," said he, "I reckon I settled ya." At the same moment the doctor, Gray, and Ben Gunn joined us with smoking muskets from among the nutmeg trees. "Forward," cried the doctor. "Double quick, me lads. We must have him off the boats." And we set off at a great pace, sometimes plunging through the bushes to the chest. I tell you, but Silver was anxious to keep up with us. The work that man went through, leaping on his crutch till the muscle of his chest were fit to burst, was a work no sound man ever equalled, and so thinks the doctor as it was. He was already 30 yards behind us, and on the verge of strangling, when we reached the brow of the slope. "Doctor," he yelled, "see there, no hurry." Sure enough, there was no hurry. In a more open part of the plateau, we could see the 3 survivors still running in the same direction as they had started, right for Mizzenmast Hill. We were already between them and the boats, and so we 4 sat down to breathe, while Long John, mopping his face, came slowly up with us. "Thank ye kindly, Doctor," says he. "You came in about the nick, I guess, for me and Hawkins, and so it's you, Ben Gunn." He had it. "Well, you're a nice one, to be sure." "I'm Ben Gunn, I am," replied the maroon, wriggling like an eel in his embarrassment, and he added after a long pause, "How do, Mr. Silver? Pretty well, I think, yes, says you." "And thank you for the follow, Kobe. Hope you're doing well." The doctor sent back Gray for one of the pickaxes deserted and are flayed by the mutineers, and then as we proceeded leisurely downhill to where the boats were lying related in a few words what had taken place. It was a story that profoundly interested Silver, and Ben Gunn, the half-idiot maroon, was the hero from beginning to end. And thank you for keeping me hydrated, Kobe. And thank you for the one bit of that. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice week, my friend. Ben, in his long, lonely wanderings about the island, had found a skeleton. 'Twas here at his arrival that he had found the treasure he had dug it up. 'Twas the haft of his pickaxe that lay broken in the excavation. He had carried it on his back in many weary journeys, from the foot of the tall pine to a cave he had on a 2-pointed hill at the northeast angle of the island, and there it had lain stored in safety since 2 months before the arrival of the Espanol. Oh, no worries, Kobe. I'm doing well, I'm doing well. Nearing the end of this book, and it's been quite a nice ride so far. When the doctor had wormed the secret from him on the afternoon of the attack, and when next morning he saw the anchorage deserted, he had gone to Silver, given him the chart, which was now useless, and given him the stores, for Ben Gunn's cave was well supplied with goats, meat salted by himself, given anything and everything to get a chance of moving in safety from the stockade to the 2-pointed hill, there to be clear of malaria and keep a guard upon the money. Yes, what's up, Ali? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice lark. Speaking of Ali, what you mean, Ali? There ain't no talking going on anywhere. Never about. Oh yeah, Fox came over with a lovely rate, and I'm guessing you still had your screen on there as well, right? Hope you had a nice nap then. Yeah, it was nice of Fox. Hope he's having a nice lurk. He said be lurking, so if he happens to hear, hope you're having a nice lurk. Well, that's nice. Glad to hear you had a nice nap. Or the best nap even. Oh, look there, this is Ainda. What are you doing? Hope you had a nice sleep. Oh, well understand. You have to lay off the drama, remember. Alright, you two fight it out, I'll just read on then. As for you, Jim, he said, 'twent done against my heart, but I did what I thought best for those who had stood by their duty, and if you ever know one of these, whose fault was it? That morning, finding that I was to be involved in the horrid disappointment he had prepared for the mutineers, he had run all the way to the cave and, leaving Squire to guard the cabin, had taken Grey and the Maroon and started, making diagonal across the island, to be at hand beside the pine. Soon, however, he saw their party at the start of him, and Bengun, being fleet of foot, had been dispatched in front to do his best alone. Then it had occurred to him to work upon the superstitions of his former shipmate, and he was so far successful that the Grey and the Doctor had come up and were already ambushed before the arrival of the treasure hunters. Yes, and it's all right that you missed your stream. As long as you had a nice sleep, and as long as it may fuel your habits in the coming days. And so I hope it does. Good saying. Ah, said Silver, 'twas fortunate for me that I had Hawkins there. You would have let old John be cut to bits and never given it a thought, Doctor. Not a thought, replied Livesey cheerily. And by this time we had reached the gigs, and the Doctor with a pickaxe demolished one of them, and then we all got aboard the other, and set out to go around by the sea of North Inlet. This was a run of 8 or 9 miles. Silver thought he was almost killed already with fatigue, was set to an oar like the rest of us, and we were soon skimming swiftly over a smooth sea. Soon we passed out at the straits and doubled the southeast corner of the island, around which 4 days ago we had towed the Hispaniola. Hello, well, hope you're doing well. So hold on. On the topic of emotes, I'll get back to that after the last chapter, but I've been kinda looking at getting some proper custom emotes done by an artist. Not that I don't like these ones, but these ones are kinda quickly thrown together. Alright, that makes the decision harder if you all like these emotes. Oh well, we'll see. As we passed the 2-pointed hill, we could see the black mouth of Bengun's cave, and a figure standing by it, leaning on a musket. 'Twas the Squire, and we waved a handkerchief and gave him 3 cheers, in which the foil of Silver joined as heartily as any. 3 miles farther, just inside the mouth of North Inlet, what should we meet but the Hispaniola? Cruising by herself, the last flood had lifted her, and had there been much wind or a strong tide current, as in the southern anchorage, We should never have found her more, or found her stranded beyond help. As it was, there was little amiss beyond the wreck of the mainsail. Well, thank you so much for the 1,500 bits. What are you doing well? Also, I'll respond to that after the paragraph's in. I was like, gotta read out the paragraph first. As it was, there was little amiss beyond the wreck of the mainsail. Another anchor was got ready, and dropped in a firm and a half of water. We all pulled round again to Rum Cove, the nearest point for Bengen's treasure house, and then Grey, single-handed, returned with a gig to the Hispaniola, where he was to pass the night on guard. Well, I'm properly out of the paragraph. Thank you so much for the 1,500 biddies. What are you doing, mate? You mad lad. All I was saying to him, doing well, you know. Just nice and distracted by streaming and reading right now. It's a good distraction from the other things I had going on. And well, I was starting to feel better over the day anyway, so better than yesterday at least. I love you all very much as well. Oh, could be a saint, could be. Since Ellie raided Fox and the Raven, Fox and the Raven raided me. I don't know if Ellie got any raids, but no, well, you were on at Ellie's for a bit. I don't know if you had it on your PC. But it may have, yes. But hey, that's even better. Twice the few. That's not how it works, I don't think, but oh well. A gentle slope ran up from the beach to the entrance of the cave, at the top of the Squire Meadows. To me it was cordial and kind, saying nothing of me escapade, either in the way of blame or praise. At Silver's polite salute he somewhat flushed. Yes, and I'll just read someone else that's going to do a nice 9-hour stream or so, and then I'll make a promise with them that they're going to rate Ellie in the when they're done. That'd be quite a long, that'd be 12 hours actually from then about. Just gotta find someone who's willing. We'll find someone. Make the circle around. Oh, hold on. There's the lurkers coming out, making sure I keep on reading all the right drums. John Silver, he said, you're a prejudiced villain and impostor, a monstrous impostor, sir. I am told I am not to prosecute you. Well then, I will not, but a dead man, sir, hang about your neck like millstones. Thank you kindly, sir, replied Long John, again saluting. I dare you to thank me, cried the squire. 'Tis a gross dereliction of my jury. Stand back. And thereupon we all entered the cave. It was a large airy place with a little spring and a pool of clear water, overhung with ferns. The floor was sand. Before a big fire lay Captain Smollett, and in a far corner, only duskily flickered over by the blaze, I beheld great heaps of coin, and quadrilaterals built with a bars of gold. That was Flint's treasure that we had come so far to seek, and that had cost already the lives of 17 men from the Hispaniola. How many had it cost in the amassing, what blood and sorrow, what good ships culled on the deep, what brave men walking the plank blindfold, what shot of cannon, what shame and light and cruelty, perhaps no man alive could tell. Yet there were still 3 upon that island, Silver and old Morgan and Ben Gunn, who were each taking a share in these crimes, as each had hope and fain to share in the reward. Well, hope you're feeling nice under a figure-headed saint. You'll figure out something well to do with all that energy, I presume. Come in, Jim, said Captain. You're a good boy in your line, Jim, but I don't think you and me'll go to sea again. You're too much of a born favourite for me. Is that you, John Silver? What brings you here, man? Came back to do me duty, sir, returned Silver. Ah, said Captain, and that was all he said. What a supper I had of it that night, with all me friends around me, and what a meal there was, with Ben salted goat, and some delicacies, and a bottle of old wine from the Hispaniola. Never, I'm sure, were people gayer or happier, and there was Silver sitting back almost out over the firelight, breathing hardily, prompt to spring forward when anything was wanted, even joining quietly in our laughter, the same bland, polite, obsequious seaman of the voyage out. Well, you could always see a bit, Saint. You've got thin walls, don't you? I don't know, but could always give it a try, or at the very least just open up on OBS, record for a little bit, just you doing ASMR. Don't have to put it anywhere, but just record for a little bit and then later listen on back. And during that recording, just have your parents on talking in the background, and then when checking it back, just check how loud it is, because honestly, you'll probably be surprised how muffled it may be. You're on 3DO now. 3DO really does pick up a lot. Yeah, alright. Well, we'll see, Saint, we'll see. Try whatever you fancies the most. And in the meantime, just enjoy and be glad you got some good sleep, so it seems. It's not a failure at the least. Some good sleep is quite important. Speaking of sleep, we're getting ready to put this story to rest. Jumping into chapter 34, and Lost. The next morning we fell early to work for a transportation of a great mass of gold that a mile by land to the beach, and thence 3 miles by boat to the Hispaniola, was a considerable task for so small a number of workmen. The 3 fellows still abroad upon the island did not greatly trouble us. A single sentry on the shoulder of the hill was sufficient to ensure us against any sudden onslaught, and we thought, besides, they had had more than enough of fighting. Therefore the work was pushed on briskly. Gray and Ben Gunn came and went with the boat, while the rest, during their absences, piled treasure on the beach. 2 of the bars slung in a rope's end made a good load for a grown man, one that he was glad to walk slowly with. For my part, as I was not much use at carrying, I was kept busy all day in the cave, packing the minted money in the bread bags. It was a strange collection, like Billy Bones's hoard for a diversity of coinage, but so much larger and so much more varied that I think I never had more pleasure than in sorting them. English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Georgis and Louises, doubloons and double guineas, and moidores and sequins, the pictures of all the kings of Europe for the last 100 years. Strange oriental pieces, stemmed for what looked like wisps of string or bits of spider web, round pieces and square pieces, and pieces bored through the mill as if to wear them around your neck. Nearly every variety of money in the world must, I think, have found a place in the collection, and for a number I am sure they were like autumn leaves, so that my back ached with stooping, and my fingers with sorting them out. Day after day this work went on. By every evening a fortune had been stowed aboard, but there was another fortune waiting for the morrow, and all this time we heard nothing of the 3 reviving mutineers. At last, I think it was on the 3rd night, the doctor and I were strolling on the shoulder of the hill, where it overlooks the lowlands of the isle, when from out the thick darkness below, the wind brought us a noise between shrieking and singing. 'Twas only a snatch that reached our ears, followed by the former silence. "Heaven forgive them," said the doctor. "'Tis the mutineers." All drunk, sir, struck in the voice of Silver from behind us. Silver, I should say, was allowed his entire liberty, and in spite of daily rebuffs, seemed to regard himself once more as quite a privileged and friendly dependent. Indeed, it was remarkable how well he bore these sights, and with what unwearying politeness he kept at trying to integrate himself withal. Yet I think none treated him better than a dog, unless it was Ben Gunn, who was still terribly afraid of our old quartermaster, or myself, who had really something to thank him for. Although, for that matter, I suppose, I had reason to think even worse of him than everybody else, for I had seen him meditating a fresh treachery upon the plateau. Accordingly, it was pretty gruffly that the doctor answered him. "Drunk or raving," said he. "Right you are, sir," replied Silver, "and precious little odds which to you and me. I suppose you would hardly ask me to call you a humane man," returned the doctor with a sneer, "and so my feelings may surprise you, Master Silver. But if I were sure they were raving, as I am morally certain one at least of them is down with fever, I should leave this camp and, at whatever risk to my own carcass, take him to assistance of my skill." "Ask your pardon, sir, you would be very wrong," quoth Silver. "You will lose your precious life, and you may later that. I'm on your side now, hand and glove, and I shouldn't wish for to see the party weakened, let alone yourself, seeing as I know what I owe you. But these men down there, they couldn't keep their word, no, not supposing they wished to. And what's more, they couldn't believe as you could." "No," said the doctor, "you are the men to keep your word, we know that." "Surely he is." Well, that was about the last news we had heard of the 3 pirates. Only once we heard a gunshot a great way off, and supposed them to be hunting. A council was held, and it was decided that we must assert them on the island, To the huge glee, I must say, of Ben Gunn, and with a strong approval of Grey. We left for a good stock of powder and shot, the bulk of the salt goat, a few medicines and some other necessaries, tools glorying a spare sill, a fathom or two of rope, and by the particular desire of the doctor, a handsome present of tobacco. That was about our last doing on the island. Before that we had got a treasure stowed and had shipped enough water and the remainder of the goat meat in case of any distress. And at last one fine morning we weighed anchor, which was about all that we could manage, and stood out of North Inlet, the same colours flying that the captain had flown and fought under at the Palisade. The three fellows must have been watching us closer than we thought for, as we soon had proved, for coming through the narrows we had to lie very near the southern point, and there we saw all three of them kneeling together on a spit of sand with their arms raised in supplication. 'Twent to all our hearts, I think, to leave them in that wretched state, but we could not risk another mutiny, and the thing take them home for the gibbet would have been a cruel sort of kindness. The doctor held them and told them of the stores we had left, and where they were to find them, but they continued to call us by name and appeal to us for God's sake to be merciful and not leave them to die in such a place. No, not a cat here either. I don't meow or meow. No, I really actually can't do a good meow, so there you go. I truly am not a cat. At last, seeing a ship still bore on her course, and was now swiftly drawing out of earshot. One of them, I know not which it was, leaped to his feet with a hoarse cry, whipped his musket to his shoulder, and sent a shot whistling over Silver's head and through the mainsail. You see, Ellie, that's what I like about removing the background. You control me or watch behind me, since you can't see anyways. Oh shit, there is a fire burning now. I'll leave that for tomorrow. I mean, it's in the fireplace anyway, so it should be fine, right? It has been fine for years. After that we kept under cover of the bulwarks, and when next I looked out, they had disappeared from the spit, and the spit itself had almost melted out of sight in the growing distance. That was, at least, the end of that, and before noon, to my inexpressible joy, the highest rock at Treasure Island had sunk into the blue around the sea. We were so sure that men that everyone on board had to bear a hand, only the captain lying on a mattress in the stern and giving his orders, for though greatly recovered, he was still in wonder quiet. We laid our head for the nearest port in Spanish America, for we could not risk the voyage home without fresh hands, and as it was, what with baffling winds and a couple of fresh gales, we were all worn out before we reached it. It was just at sundown when we cast anchor in a most beautiful landlocked gulf, and were immediately surrounded by shore boats full of people and Mexican Indians and half-bloods selling fruit and vegetables and offering to die for bits of money. The sight of so many good-humoured faces, the taste of the tropical fruits, and above all, the lights that began to shine in the town, made a most charming contrast to our dark and bloody sojourn on the island. And the doctor and the squire, taking me along with them, when assured to pass the early part of the night, here I met a captain of an English man o' war, fell in talk with him, went on board his ship, and then sure it so agreeable the time that day was breaking when we came alongside the Hispaniola. Ben Gunn was on deck alone, and as soon as we came on board he began, with wonderful contortions, to make us a confession. Silver was gone, the maroon had connived at escape on a shore boat some hours ago, and he now assured us he had only done so to preserve our lives, which would certainly have been forfeited if that men with the one leg had stayed aboard. But it was not all. The sea cook had not gone empty-handed. He had cut through a bulkhead unobserved, and had removed one of the sacks of coin, worth perhaps 300 or 400 guineas, to help him on his further wanderings. I think we were all pleased to be so cheaply quit of him. Well, to make a long story short, we got a few hands on board, made a good cruise home, and the Hispaniola reached Bristol, just as Mr. Blandley was beginning to think of fitting out their concert. 5 men only of those who had sailed returned with her. Drink and the devil had done for the rest. With a vengeance, although, to be sure, we were not quite in so bad a case as that other ship they sang about. With 1 man on a crew alive were put to sea with 75. All of us had an ample share of the treasure, and used it wisely or foolishly, according to our natures. Captain Smalley is now retired from the sea. Gray not only saved his money, but, being suddenly smit with a desire to rise, also studied his profession, and he is now mayor and part owner of a fine full-rigged ship, married besides and the father of a family. As for Ben Gunn, he got £1,000 which he spent or lost in 3 weeks, or to be more exact in 19 days, for he was back begging on the 20th. Then he was given a lodge to keep, exactly as he had fared upon the island, and he still lives a great favourite, though something of a butt with the country boys, and a normal singer in church on Sundays and Saints' days. Of Silver we never heard no more, that formidable seafaring man with 1 leg, has at last gone clean out of my life, but I dare say he met his old woman, and perhaps still lives in comfort with her and Captain Flint. 'Tis to be hoped so, I suppose, for his chances of comfort in another world are very small. The bar Silver and the arm still lie, for all that I know, where Flint buried them, and certainly they shall lie there for more. Oxen and wain ropes would not bring me back again to that accursed island, and the worst dreams that ever I have are when I hear the surf booming about its coasts, or start up right in bed, with the sharp voice of Captain Flint still ringing in my ears. Beside, beside. And alright, that'll have been the wrap-up of Treasure Island. Let me see what's the time. Alright. I can just do a bit of random stuff for a bit, then I'll have to be off. Oh, Hallie, thank you for the host, by the way. Do I even have a host notification set up? It might not show up on the overlays, I don't know. But I just now saw it in the mini feed, or the activity feed. But yeah, as I said earlier, or well, maybe just wrap up the story fully. Thank you all for listening to me rambling on about Treasure Island. Hope you all enjoyed this tale of some rugged pirates setting out and keel-hauling each other over some gold. Well, alright if you had that much gold in this day. It's actually a good challenge. You'd get near the richest people on earth. It's quite a bit of gold they were describing at times. So I hope you all enjoyed. And hello, Butterduck, thank you for the follow. If you came for Treasure Island, I'm sorry to say, I just finished that off. But yeah, thank you all for joining me with that, and if you didn't catch earlier parts of it, we've started uploading my Twitch VoD to YouTube. So if you want, you can check them out there, but the VoDs will also be on Twitch for as long as they'll allow, which, if I remember correctly, is 60 days. I think 60 days. Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. It's 30 for some, but I have Amazon Prime, so I think with that it goes up to 60, maybe a bit more. Hello, Jarhang. And you know what? Before I do some random ASMR in a bit, just some random other stuff, let me take a quick break in between again. And then do like 10-15 more minutes of ASMR. And then I'll go find someone to raid. Play the title though, since not reading Treasure Island anymore, since we just finished. And thank you, Butterduck. I'll be back in a sec. Small quick break. Alright, back for a little closing section of about 10 minutes probably. I don't know, it'd be nice to raid someone else in fucking Kin, right? And I wanna stick around for a little bit when I raid someone. And otherwise I'd have to basically instantly disappear over to our stream if I were to raid someone else late. Oh, Chewie is live as well. Right. He goes live this early nowadays, doesn't he? I think he used to be an hour later or so. Probably a Rachel one over there in a bit. Oh right, Blueberry went live as well. She just got partner by the way, so. But well, lovely Chewie would be fun. Don't get to see him that much. I would get to see him for a little bit. Yeah. I find it such a shame that he, well, yeah, just he and Fox have quite the overlapping schedules. Yeah, Blue is doing partner celebration. I don't know. It'd be nice to raid as well, but I want to watch Chewie for a bit in a bit when I can. So I don't get to see him much, you know. His schedule quite overlaps with that of Fox and Ken nowadays. It used to be not that much, since Fox used to stream a bit earlier. But that's not been the case for a decent bit. But hey, speaking of not having much triggers earlier, at least have some props. But yeah, I don't know. It's kinda... It actually does feel kinda rough and weird for me to just be making ASMR. I don't know. I find it hard to zone out and just focus on doing random triggers with props like that. I feel. My mind's a bit too much like, alright, I'm doing this for a bit, what now? Oh, fair enough to your mind, not much, just keep doing that. Yeah. But I want to do something else, yeah, alright mind. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, I think reading will just be my thing, so. Hey. And I don't mind saying to people, like, yeah, I don't do much else. You want something else? And if you prefer other stuff, go somewhere else. I prefer you to be comfortable and happy and relaxed. So if you find that somewhere else, I prefer you to go there. Yeah, I will, Saint, I will. But yeah, I don't know. It'd kinda be nice to at least try and do some other things. I don't know if that's weird or not, that I just can't really focus too well on just doing random triggers. Like just talking about for hours on end I can do, like even just chatting, perfectly fine. I don't know, I guess it's a lot like improv, and improv in music I've never been great at either. I've always been one to just read from the sheets. And whether that's bad or good, then it's neither, just to each their own. Also, if any of the lurkers are too afraid to ask where to find Treasure Island, you can find it there. Figured I maybe should link it. Yeah, well, and I'm blessed with, or well, I'm cursed with not being able to do improv quite well, so not being able to do any, like all random triggers about. But reading works for me, and maybe that's a nice niche on the site for a lot of people. It might cut down a bit of the audience that I can truly reach, but that's alright. Might be nice to provide it for some at least. Hello, Aberginger or Eberginger. Thank you for the follow. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's nice to fill that bit niche of void for anyone looking for it. Well, I know, saying that's exactly it. I'm not good at improv, so that exactly kind of makes me uncomfortable-ish. As with my music analogy, just playing out of my head, never quite been much for me. Always wanted to play off sheet music. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll never become a proper normal ASMR artist. Or well, normal. I mean, fair enough to call it that. I think, yeah, actually, fair enough to call it that. I'd say I'm just doing my subset of ASMR, just reading ASMR. And to be fair, even then, I'm kind of on the wrong platform for it. If you want to hear someone ASMR read a book, it's kind of a bit about the book, right? But if you're on Twitch, you're popping in and out of live streams, and people are popping in and about. It's not really a thing for live streaming, it's better suited to videos. But yeah, I have no clue how you'd grow on YouTube, really. Like, how does one truly grow on YouTube? Unless you get picked up by the algorithm some way. I don't really see it that well. Or unless you promote in some other outbound way. YouTube does have an algorithm. Like somehow, sometimes, it's kind of dependent on the viewers, I think, as well. And if a lot of viewers just happen to watch a certain thing, like a lot of people watch, for example, ASMR Glow on YouTube, and let's say a couple of people, maybe about 5% of them, happens to stumble upon the lovely Leonara Lee ASMR content on YouTube, that would probably be picked up by the algorithm, and the other 95% that didn't find Leonara Lee yet on YouTube would then also be getting recommended her videos, probably, for as I know. I'm sorry, Ali, I'm just... Hello, Stingy Pelgarts. Thank you for a follow. Nice name. Oh, well, thank you. Kind of a jinx, just complimenting each other at the same time. Y'all can't out-derp me. I've got more derp emotes, I'm certain of it. Just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fetch that, y'all. Alright, we're on even footing then. missing the Girafox and the Luminara. Alright, I've not been able to catch them much. I think Girafox streams nights for me. I don't know about Luminara, I've not seen her around much. And yeah, I'm alright, Saint, I'm alright. Yeah, minion being mobile. Also, you wouldn't have to look through them all, right? You can just search derp. Can't ya? Oh, Lumi, you mean? I'm assuming. Not Girafox, right? Minecraft's fun too, but hop into it. Let me double check whether I follow her. I should. I'm pretty sure I do. I don't. You know what? I think I... Wait, how Saint? Are you on iOS? Because I'm certain that on Android on Twitch I can just search for derp and get all the derp emotes. I am a fake ASMR, but no, kinda what I do a lot of the times in my mind is just confuse following people on Twitter, or in my memory kind of, following people on Twitter with following them on Twitch. I'm pretty sure I follow Luminara on Twitter and I never forgot to follow her on Twitch. Let me see, where was it? There was a way. Wait, what? What are you reasonably removed? I could swear on the live on me they had a way to search derp. I mean, you can type the double points, not the semicolon, but the other thing. Just the two dots. You can do that and then type derp. And it'll kind of show all the derps. Wait. I could have sworn they had a search function in their emote field. Not that I use Twitch Mobile that much, so maybe my memory is just being shit as well. Right, but anyone was, I'm about to sign off in a bit. What a quick single tarot card reading. See, I'm not merely a one-trick pony. I'm a two-trick pony. I've got tarot as well. Take that, y'all. I'm just saying, just saying. Yeah, that came out a bit more aggressive than it should have. I've got two tricks up my sleeve at least. Something. Well, alright, I'll just quickly pick a random card for myself and end the stream of them. Since I started understanding the arcana, I should do one a day. Yeah, you didn't like that last one telling you not to focus so much on the drama. Well, I guess you haven't quite resolved that one yet, so maybe not to get into other troubles in the meantime either. Well, I've had this one before. I think then too, or then I could quite get a meaning from the art on the cards. being in the graded place at the bottom with a rat on the 4 cups, with the moon bright in the sky, showing hope and the likes, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I do remember correctly, because honestly, chances are quite high that I don't remember correctly. Basically anything that I'm talking about. Unless I mention something really, really random, that was my mind suddenly reminding me of, yeah, pineapple makes for a great meat tenderizer. Did you know, pineapple juice actually really helps with tenderizing meat, since it breaks down the enzymes in it, if I remember correctly, something like that. Alright, 4 cups, great discontent. An outsider would look upon your life and see supportive relationships, pleasures, and even a bit of luxury, but you don't see it that way instead. There is contentment, apathy, and even greed for more. The 4 cups wants not to take your situation for granted, or the people who supported you along the way. Look around you. What are you truly longing for? Name it. Some time off of work would be nice, to be fair. I don't know. The car does strike me quite near, I feel. Because I am rarely content with what I've really got. And despite always hoping for the best, I always also fear the worst in everything. And it probably outs itself in some discontentment. But oh well, I'm not that terrible as well. Let me get that raid started over to watch TV in a bit. Where do I have my stream manager? Right over. Mr. Chubby. I know that feeling, Saint. I know that feeling all too well. Don't you worry. But alright. Wait, why is it saying 0 viewers? Twitch, are you alright? Maybe I just have 0 viewers. How are you guys chatting with me? I don't know, it's probably fine. Even no clue. But yeah, thank you all for being here with me today. Hope you all have a great end to your work week this week. Thursday is coming to an end soon, and Friday will just nicely close off the work week, I hope, for you all. Yeah, I don't know, it says 0 viewers already to raid, right? Let's say that for you all as well. Don't have that much time to talk since it's counting down, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it over at Chubby's. He's a great ASM artist. Go show him some love in a bit. And thank you all for having been here. And I'll see you all later. Might not stream too much this weekend, but time is running out.